Welcome, everyone, to episode 24 of the Sports Clichés podcast, a podcast that has also seen The Office. That's right, NFL, we see you. I'm Craig. That's Jay. Jay, how do you feel about Mexican lemonade?
This tastes a lot like the store-bought lemonade, actually. Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that's a classic. Yeah, if you all haven't seen the NFL stands with the Hispanic community, and by that it means they throw an Enye up there like it means something, and yeah, just some funny ass marketing from the NFL. Just a classic misstep.
Oh, boy.
But that's the NFL we know and love. They do this shit all the time for a multi-billion-dollar corporation. It just seem to be a little tone deaf, maybe a little every now and then. But it's a bunch of rich old white guys. Of course, they're a little tone deaf, I guess.
True.
Yeah, did we expect any better? But yeah, how you doing, dude? How are you doing after a not a bad week? Actually, by about midway through last week, Craig was looking real good on the picks. Unfortunately, last couple fizzled out, but still finished above 500, 8-7. Not too shabby.
8-7, 3-3 in the college football picks last week too. I had a pretty decent week. I got caught on a couple bad beats. I think I could have actually been a lot better, but couple bad beats where I had the team right and missed the spread by a point or two, and
Yeah,
that's
as
the
happens.
game we play. That's the game we play. But yeah, I felt good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was an interesting week for sure.
I was actually surprised I kept it at 6-9. There was I was just lost, just missing the mark on a few of them there. So that was pretty unfortunate. But it was quite a wacky week. We'll be hitting on all the games. And last night, I mean, what a wacky game that was. Really, really a tale of two halves there. And just kind of goes to show when you got the chance to really put the heel to somebody, really just put a game to rest, and especially when that team's the Chiefs, you gotta do it. And this kind of felt like last season's Chargers almost. Like they had that game in hand. A couple bad calls and stuff going their way. PI's not quite being, I think, maybe called the right way, but in general, a surprising comeback by the Chiefs, and all of a sudden that game was a 10-point, right there at the end of the fourth. Chargers able to rally back and keep it a little closer, but unfortunate and kind of disappointing loss, I think, for the Chargers there.
Chargers covering the spread. That's what the Chargers did at the end. They covered the spread 4.5. Yeah. No, I want to give the Chargers the credit because I think they played a really solid game for 2.5 quarters, right? And we can say whatever we want. These are still the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I honestly might be persuaded to believing that the Chiefs are actually better without Tyreek Hill than they were with Tyreek Hill. It forces the play calling to change a little bit. It forces the ball to go to other places, right? You no longer have the Tyreek go long play to go to, which the Chiefs like to do 2-3 times a game. And because of that, I think it opens up the offense a little bit more. We saw it in week 1 against the Cardinals. Obviously, again last night when they needed to start to drive the ball, they had some interesting stuff going on. They were able to find Valdez-Scantling. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is proving to be a game-changing running back in the passing game. Right? He's a good running back too, but you get him out in the flats, you get him out wide, he can make guys miss. It's one of those things where you've taken away this weapon from them, and we were all kind of worried about how that offense would look without Tyreek Hill. I think we undersold Patrick Mahomes a little bit at times. I also want to point out this happened last season as well with Josh Allen. I'm sick of quarterbacks getting love for almost beating Patrick Mahomes and Patrick Mahomes not getting the love for winning the games. Because I feel like the Justin Herbert love today was incredible. Everyone's like, man, what a game Justin Herbert played, though. Same thing last year
Yeah.
with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
Uh, man, Patrick Mahomes is fucking good at
Well,
football.
I think some of that Herbert love was because he like damn near like broke his rib cage,
Yeah, that
basically,
is
and
true too.
and and rallied pretty nicely behind it. I mean, good numbers. They numbers that maybe pop a little bit more. 334, three tutties, had to pick, but obviously you're talking about 235, two tutties, and a nicely efficient game plan. Obviously, yeah, you're talking about the two three name guys basically, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Valdez Scantling, getting a lot of targets at least. Maybe not so much in the catches, but yeah, to your point, I mean, that ball's getting spread around a little bit more. You got 7 targets to Kelsey and Valdez Scantling. A pair of 4 targets to Hardman and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You're getting it out to, Juju's still there. He's that's always, there's potential there for, he could have a game at any point in this offense. So a lot of weapons. And then on the other side, as much as what it is, impressive for Herbert, obviously, Mike Williams having just that was a spectacular catch. That's going to be a highlight reel catch for the
Oh
season
my
right there. So
god, yeah.
you can't uh, you know be too surprised of those are the real pop out of plays that pop out. But I mean that one pass that Mahomes hit, had running up the center and just an absolute seed. What, that was about a 40-yard or
Yeah.
so pass down the field, right down the middle, right into the bucket, like an absolutely beautiful pass. So it's really quite a clinic from two top-notch quarterbacks there. But yeah,
And
that's
that
it. That's what
that
it is.
sidearm touchdown to Jerick McKinnon was
Yeah.
just nasty, right? There's so few quarterbacks that have the ability to go at that arm angle through the side, get
Yeah.
it through the seam, throw the perfect dot across their body to a guy. Like, there's been a couple of college interceptions this year that a lot of people have blamed on Patrick Mahomes because there are guys out there who will be running the opposite way, just running, see a guy 40 yards down the field that way and try to huck it back across their, lands 10 yards short into a defender's hands, right? Because spoiler alert, Patrick Mahomes is special at this shit, guys. Like, he is another breed, and I don't know, man. He did it again. He finds ways to win, right? Even when he's not playing at his best. And let's be honest, especially in that first half, Patrick Mahomes was not at his best. A lot of missed throws. We talked about it, the obvious big phantom illegal contact call, which looked like two guys coming into each other, and a lot of confusion there that negated an interception. And then yeah, 99-yard interception for a touchdown. Can't happen.
Yeah.
Two guys got their hands on him.
Yeah. Um, Kind of a surprising game, I would say. A defense that you would expect to be able to have some legs under it. All of a sudden, yeah, just started to not be able to find the answer for as good as it looked in the first half. And you gotta give credit on both sides on the defensive end. I think obviously that that Chargers defense was hungry in that first half. It looked like they were really getting after it pretty well. And then just like that on the other side, all of a sudden, the Chiefs are getting a lot, the Chiefs are getting a lot of pressure all of a sudden on a Chargers team that looked like they were going to be able to run away with it. But yeah, this was absolutely just a crazy game of momentum. Nothing really made sense as far as the numbers were concerned to really indicate that all of a sudden the Chiefs were going to make that rally back. The one indicator I would say is the scoreboard. You leave that game like a 10-point game. The window's nothing but open for that Chiefs team, and yeah, they keep on taking advantage of it. I say I'm still a believer. The Chargers could have been up. This could have been a 20-0 game, and while that's still just 3 touchdowns, I think they have enough there to where they should be able to close out a 20-point game. You would think against any team. But yeah, you left the window open for the Chiefs, and all of a sudden, yeah, that lead evaporated, and before you knew it, they were down by 10 themselves. So, um,
Y-
I would say, this isn't going to be, obviously, we're talking about week 2. This isn't going to be anything that's going to be a make or break as far as making the playoffs. You would hope for the Chargers it wouldn't be that again. But um, based on, how tough this AFC West is going to be in general, this one's potentially going to hurt down the line for the Chargers team for sure. This one
It
might come
could.
back up. Obviously, they'll
Uh,
play again in LA, but yeah,
yeah, it could. I It's certainly going to be a dogfight. There were a couple interesting results in the AFC West last week. Obviously, namely,
Denver
Russ
team.
not cooking. Um,
Well, yeah, we'll get to
but
that one. We'll get to that one.
yeah, I don't know. Week one doesn't tell you much, right?
Hmm.
That's why every year it's full of crazy scores that you look
Yeah,
back on and go, man, if that game had been played in week five, it would have been a crazy
right.
different result.
And that
Um,
was a common theme for us last week. Talk about those week 1 games, but it's like it's always it gives more questions than answers.
yeah,
It's like now you got to really think about some of these teams. A Seattle team that they didn't just kind of fold over. Although now, without their starting star safety, basically probably one of the only good players they still definitely have on that roster right now.
yeah.
So it might be rough for them. But um, yeah, yeah, hell of a this is a classic Chiefs win. And yeah, this one might bite the Chargers in the ass later down.
Could it very well could in a division that could likely come down to a game or two. You look back at this one
Yeah.
as a potential big swing game.
Um, yeah, let's just keep on it moving here. Go through the rest of the slate. Obviously, we had already touched upon that Buffalo Rams game. Still a pretty defining, nice start to the season for the Buffalo Bills. We'll get back to them in a little bit here, but we'll hit on the first game. New Orleans Saints somehow able to make it happen. Another Atlanta just they were there. They were so there. They do cover the spread. Um,
But by the Falcon standards, only a 96% chance to win. That's not even a choke at this point. That's just a Sunday.
yeah,
Uh, Listen, I take a lot of positives out of that game, believe it or not. I
right.
know it's another Falcons choke job.
You have probably one of the best kickers in the league right now. That's for damn sure.
We have Young Wei Koo.
You could stamp that. Koo
Um,
is legit. That dude has a
I thought
leg.
Mariota and Cordero Patterson had a nice rapport going for a little bit there. I thought there was a lot of good stuff
Yeah.
there. But man, this team just could not close out drives. And
No.
Young Wei Koo doing his thing, man, putting field goals through the uprights
Yeah.
and keeping the points there. But you just needed to close out a couple of them. Let's be honest. The Falcons offense doesn't have a ton of weapons, right? And when you're neutralizing Kyle Pitts the way that the Saints did, it's going to be difficult for a less talented offense to capitalize on that,
Yeah.
right? We saw it with the Chiefs last night. Kelsey had an okay game, but not a Kelsey game by any stretch. But they had options around him. You have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, you have McCole Hardman, you have Valdez-Scantling, you have Juju Smith-Schuster. You have so many options where somebody can get you the yards and get the plays going. For the Falcons, man, if you shut down Kyle Pitts, Drake London's still kind of getting used to the offense playing with Mariota.
Of course.
Mariota himself still kind of getting used to the offense and
Absolutely.
running things.
Yeah.
Um, that feels like the kind of game you hope in week 4 or 5 when there's maybe a little bit more of a rapport there. You can get around not having Kyle Pitts, but there's just so few weapons on that offense that if you can shut one down like they did to Kyle Pitts, it's going to be hard to win that game. They put themselves in a position to win it. Ultimately, they couldn't do it. I have no faith in this Falcons defense, so I'm not surprised it folded like a card house in the wind. But I'll take the positives out of it. I thought Mariota looked solid. I really liked the RPO game they had going with him and Cordell Patterson. Um, some positives to take out of it.
Yeah.
Still an Atlanta choke job loss. Whatever. I'm used to those by now. It makes me happy to see some kind of a different offense here, right? Using Mariota's legs a little bit more, moving the pocket a little bit, making the stale offense feel a little bit fresher.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just a matter of, I think, yeah, defense. It's got to shore that up. You're up 16 with about 13 minutes left, I believe, in that game after Koo with another field goal. Of course, you kind of have to think like, if so, one or two, it's great that he was kicking well. Only missed one, I believe,
Yeah,
which was
four or
the
five.
bomb, an absolute bomb, right? Is what he missed.
Yeah, it was a 58
Yeah.
yarder, I think, that
So
he had the leg on, and I think he pulled it right.
yeah,
And yeah, whatever. Listen, your field goal kicker goes 4 or 5, and his one miss is 55 plus. You're happy with that.
yeah. I mean, if you're able to punch one of those in for another touchdown instead, obviously you're talking about a pretty immense lead. You add another 4 points, you're talking about another like a 20-point lead. You
Yeah.
would hope 13 minutes left or so. I mean, even with 16 point, obviously, but yeah, just you just got it's like just like the Chargers had to last night. You got to be prepared to play the full 4 quarters. It's a classic sports cliche, as the stream title suggests, but it's like the there are a lot of I think we both agree. Jameis Winston has that gear to him. He could absolutely, when an offense needs to go, he's shown that he has the ability to do so. Um, I think you have to be prepared for that. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, a much more well-known version of that, but it's just you're able to find the way to stop him early. And yeah, game plans change and things evolve, and obviously, who knows as far as offensive coordinators and adjustments, that sort of thing. They may be able to catch something in the first half from a defense that they'll give the same look. You're able to take that and exploit it. There's always those aspects to it. You always have to remember that. So it could be a really good job by the coaching staff in that regard, as far as their game plan and adjusting their strategy to what the other team is doing. Of course, you always have to give credit for that. And yeah, and I think sometimes that's what you'll get is if you do have these quarterbacks that are in a new system, with some new players, especially wideouts, that sort of thing. How much of the playbook are you able to really run? How much can you really open it up? Are you giving the same looks throughout the game on the offense, on the defensive side? If you don't have experienced players, you are going to be limited in that regard. Uh, and yeah, perhaps some tells, that sort of thing. So that's kind of something that you have to look for. I think we even got a little bit of that. We'll touch on the game soon. That Bears Niners game. That was a tale of two halves, and the weather came along with it. It started all of a sudden being absolutely miserable out there. It was already a shit field, and it was kind of raining, but then it was just a downpour in the second half. The Just the timing and the elements and that sort of thing. Like, it's interesting how these tale of two half games have really shown themselves in this week one, and I think obviously this was a great example of that. Although this was just a tale of like the end of the fourth quarter, basically, but same kind of principle. The shift in the dynamic of how the game's operating, definitely evident.
I
Um,
also want to throw out there, I don't think I've seen Jameis Winston play a bad game as a quarterback for the New Orleans Saints yet. And I don't know. I think going into this week and future weeks, that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow
yeah,
is, you know, how long until we start to look at Jameis Winston as just like he is a good NFL quarterback, right? Like I think everybody remembers famous Jameis and his turnovers, but man, he has not played that kind of a game as a member of the New Orleans Saints. He has 16 touchdowns and 3 picks as the Saints starter,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
He could
that
be
is
turning
just
the corner. Yeah.
really good quarterback play. Maybe that year behind Drew Brees was just what he needed,
No.
right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that's just it. I think obviously an injury is gonna like kind of make people forget.
Yeah.
Essentially, you just because you just remember that they got injured and they weren't playing. So, yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, absolutely. He's always shown that he has the arm, the ability to produce on the offensive side. It's just been the risk factor along with that as well. But it seems like might clean that up at least for now. Let's keep it going. Another disappointing sports cliches home team loss. Another complete fumble job as far as a game that could have been secured, could have been a lot more of a lead for one side, and they just kind of keep the door open. And when a team only puts up 10 points, it's going to be hard to win in the NFL in general. On that sloppy ass field, it basically became impossible to even move the ball toward the end of the game. But the Niners losing to the Bears, 19-10. Very, yeah, strange game to watch in the regards to the weather. Obviously, toward the end, you could almost barely even see the fucking action, just because how much rain was coming down. It was even harder to play on. But this was Trey Lance having to come out. He showed flashes of some really nice plays, some nice crossing routes. One that was taken away by a ridiculous offensive pass interference on Brandon Ayuk. Uh, a little bit, of action to Debo, but in general, just this Niners team kept on shooting themselves in the foot with their penalties. This was a very, very undisciplined game for the Niners. Um, I would say, just you're in the NFL now. Like this whole quarterback sliding and that sort of thing. It's got to be drilled into your head that you can't go after those guys. And I think they got called 2 or 3 times on just that. That's 45 yards right there. It's like they just kept on giving the Bears a chance to stay in it. And Bears don't even score until there's about 5 minutes left in the third. But you could feel the momentum was really with them at that point. And yeah, really, really disappointing Niners loss there. They're gonna get Seattle here coming up, who oddly enough coming off a win. But yeah, ugly game for the Niners. It's they're gonna have to kind of turn around back in Santa Rosa for this next week here.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were jumping on Trey Lance a little bit the last couple days. I don't know why. Listen, that field was dog shit. Of course, he played badly. Like that, to have your first real this is your team start, right? Like I know he started what 2 games last year, when Jimmy Garoppolo was hurt, but this was his first real. Okay, it's your team, and you are playing on a swimming pool. Have fun.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, he was rough. It's not like Justin Fields was all that good either. Like, nobody was going to play well on that field. Um, I think the play calling needed to be a little bit better.
yeah,
You can't have him throwing 28 times in that mess. You just can't. You gotta simplify it a little bit, right? Just make the game easier for the kid. Let him hand the ball off a little bit more. Let's not have him chucking the rock around like that. Some of the routes I didn't love. They went they were looking for. They had some really nice crossing routes, and then they go for something 25 yards down the field. Like it's just not the game for that. Um, I think that's what killed the Niners more than anything else. Is it just? I think and the penalties. You're 100% right. The penalties killed them more than anything else. But as far
yeah,
as the offensive rhythm goes, they needed that play calling to be a little bit tightened up, a little bit more of let's get 4 or 5 yards at a time, then let's try to get these big chunk plays, which weren't going to happen on that field. I thought I saw like you, I thought I saw some good out of Trey Lance, some bad out of Trey Lance. I put all of it on the field. Let's wait till week 3 because apparently this week he's also going to be playing in a bowl of soup. Let's give him a supposedly it's like 84% chance of rain in Santa Clara on
Oh, really?
Sunday, and yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
guess we got something coming around. It'll be interesting. I mean, it's been just hot and dry down here, so
yeah,
like it's probably going to. It should take the water decently, I would think, but um, that stadium's known to be kind of meh anyway. So
yeah.
that field, anyways, the stadium's alright, but the field has been known to be kind of shit. So I would, yeah, that'll be interesting. I can't imagine it's going to be like a downpour by any measure. It might be really humid though. That's for sure. I can see the humidity being kicked up in that game, so that'll
All
be
I heard,
awkward conditions for sure.
yeah, all I heard was 84% chance of rain. Not a fun game to play.
Yeah, yeah. It'll
Um,
probably be awkwardly hot with the rain too. It's not going to be
yeah,
fun.
which doesn't help any because that wet ball and heat is just gonna be slick, and it's not gonna be fun.
Yeah,
It's not gonna be a fun game. So let's give the kid a couple weeks to actually get in a realistically decent position to play quarterback before we judge how good of a quarterback he is.
yeah,
Um, Hopefully, play calling, if it is going to be a bit of a nasty game, they learned from this game. Let's simplify this playbook a little bit. Let's not get so exotic with the passing routes and everything. Let's keep things simple. Let's move the ball.
yeah. Um,
Right.
a good couple of points I'll take away from this, and yes, this is a very Niners slanted talk for this one. But two good, I would say a couple good things to take away were the interior guards that were our, kind of a big question mark for the Niners. Actually rated very well in this game as far as their overall efficiency. They were not the problem as far as that offensive line. As far as the penalties as well, they actually played pretty damn well in that regard. The other thing that I'm going to be looking at, obviously, we had Eli Mitchell go down pretty early in this game, unfortunately. Only was able to get 6 carries in. Was pretty good for those 6 carries. Was actually looking all right. But yeah, this is, they took him. They tried to get Jeff Wilson in there in a game where you really need to run the ball. They tried to get him involved as well, but Jeff Wilson unfortunately just didn't take off in this one. Trey Lance was you know, uh, most of the rushes coming from him on a couple design plays, a couple just trying to make things happen, and then yeah, once the end of the game happened, I think there's a couple just trying to get any yards ahead basically. So sloppy in that regard. For the Bears, you got to say like this is in potentially an NFC North that is maybe a little scrambled up right now, especially with how the Packers played. It's a nice little win for them, going forward, and who knows what that division is going to be down the line. So, crazier things have happened. Are the Bears able to, because they had to play on that same shitty field. Granted, it's their home field, but it wasn't fun out there for anybody, and they were able to take that lead before the real monsoon came down. Basically, they did that with some pretty good defensive play. They had some penalties go their way, and they were able to make the most of it on a couple of offensive drives there. A couple touchdowns for Justin Fields. Take advantage. Everything going to the left. All of a sudden, you have a wide open Dante Pettis. No one's around him for like 30 yards, basically. So you're able to just float that one over there. All right, touchdown. So, yeah, good on the Bears.
Yeah. Solid game for them, but much like the Niners, I'm not going to judge too much on this one.
Right.
You get in these crazy games like this. This is like that freaking Bills Patriots 3-0 game all over again, right?
Yeah, right.
What can we really take out of this outside of the fact that Mother Nature decided that she was going to have some fun on this game, and we got 60 minutes of pretty sloppy football both ways because that was all it was ever going to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still don't love the Bears this year. I still stand by
Oh
my
yeah, no,
prediction.
I don't really either.
They're
But
a
it
5-6 win team. Like
makes a noise though. It'll make it interesting in some of these early
it
standings, I
will.
think.
It will for the first little bit, but I don't know. I need to see what really I need to see is I need to see them figure out what they have in Justin Fields. Not necessarily what I think they have in Justin Fields or what they think they have in Justin Fields. Let's see what we actually have. Because I still believe in Justin Fields. I thought Justin Fields coming out of that draft was the most NFL ready quarterback, not named Trevor Lawrence, who we'll get to him in a bit as well.
Sure.
Um, he's shown some flashes of it. He's played with Matt Nagy calling his plays. That's very unfair to judge him on. He's played behind some poor offensive line play.
Oh yeah.
Let's see if they can figure out how they want this offense to work around him and then make that offense, right? Do what the Bengals did with Joe Burrow. They saw a little bit of Joe Burrow, then he got hurt. Okay. So next year we go in, we gave him the best offensive tools possible, and we gave him Joe Mixon beside him. And for the first little bit, we ran the ball a lot, and then we realized that Joe Burrow gets better if he throws the ball more. So we ended up throwing the ball a lot more, and bang, this offense starts clicking now. Figure out what that is with Justin Fields. Are you going to run some RPO? Do you want him bootlegging out, getting himself some time? He's got an electric arm. Figure out how that offense works, then get him the pieces. But right now, it's just a mishmash of things that you're not really sure what you have.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that just has to come with time. That's not going to be something you can really set for this team for a bit. They have to have a bit more of a solid unit around them, and they won't have all the pieces, but you just need like a solid core of players, and you start getting little things around that if you have the interest of winning, of course. And yeah, I it'll be interesting to see where Justin Fields is with this team 2 years down the road, right? 3 years down the road. Let's keep it moving through the slate of games, and in a game that it almost looked like nobody wanted to win for just a bit of time. The Pittsburgh Steelers pulling off the upset at the very end of overtime to take it against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. 23-20. Evan McPherson, just a really unfortunate situation for him. I believe their long snapper went down, if I'm not mistaken, if that was this game.
Clark Harris went down.
Yeah, so like the operation starts to get a little messed up, but that was crazy. Like it really blew up.
And then Kevin Huber, obviously not seen Ace Ventura before. I hope he gets gonorrhea, dies of gonorrhea, and burns in hell. Laces out, Kevin.
Jeez.
Laces out.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean that was kind of shocking. Obviously, a game that I think most people felt pretty good about Cincinnati. Obviously AFC representative in the Super Bowl last year, but you take a look at some of these numbers, and if you didn't look at maybe the INT category, it's like, oh, okay, Joe Burrow, 338, 2 touchdowns. What the fuck, 4 picks? And I mean, right from the get, with those, that Steeler defense was hunting. They were looking that ball. They were looking for those picks. Those aren't. I at least I think 2 of them were absolute just reads by the DBs on, you're going here with a little comeback route. I'm going to snatch this now.
Was it the ball. Minka Fitzpatrick one where he goes over the top of the receiver to make the catch? It was disgusting.
Yeah. Hey, that guy is... I mean, we're only 1 game in, but good.
Minka Fitzpatrick's unreal.
God, yeah, he's... Second coming of Troy. Oh.
Man, imagine if the Pittsburgh Steelers had a quarterback. Because, boy, Mitch Trubisky was shit in that game.
I mean, yeah, they had him sling it too,
They had him throwing it. They had him trying. He ended up with 136 yards and a touchdown. Like the guy just
a hair under 200. 194.
194. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry, Mitch.
But not it was a very volatile game on the other side. The Bengals just all over the place. You couldn't really tell how they were gonna play.
But again, one of those games that the Steelers should have killed off early when they were getting all of those turnovers. Offense couldn't do anything. Then it looks like the Bengals are going to come back and actually win this thing. It's a chip shot field goal for McPherson. The whole thing goes off the rails. And yeah, you get a chance to steal it in overtime. And then McPherson missed a kick in overtime too, right? But that was like a 56 or something like that. It was a long ass field goal that he missed in overtime. Um, yeah, the whole operation goes to shit on that field goal kicking side, and that just ruins you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Steelers win one to spite themselves. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the Seahawks later. Same thing. Um, Another one of those things I'm not holding long term on either team. All right, the Bengals win that game if they have their long snapper still in the game, and the Steelers really shouldn't have had a chance to win that game. But again, the freak stuff of football, your long snapper gets hurt, a position everybody laughs about, right? Oh, they drafted a long snapper. What a fucking joke that is. No, hold on. We saw what happens when you lose a long snapper, people.
Oh yeah. No, it's always it's gonna put guys on teams with hilariously low Madden ratings and shit like that, and yeah, and your job is to snap a football. Like it's even gonna be more scrutinized than kickers have been in the past
Yeah.
and punters, right? It's just like your guy that gets the ball to the other useless non-football player that's on the football field. That's basically been the thought, right?
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting aspect. I mean, you're talking about three. It's a 3-man unit. You're talking about that snapper. You're talking about that holder and that kicker. And it's taken a lot more seriously in that regard. I think ever since Roma with the Cowboys and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
How many backup quarterbacks even take snaps anymore for kicks? None.
It's very
all
few.
punters.
It's always punters.
So it's like that's become a unit now in the NFL, and yeah, exactly. I think you need to have a contingency plan. You need to have it as much as you need an emergency kicker. You need an emergency long snapper. You need an emergency holder. You need guys that have at least done this a bit. We saw it with Butker for the Chiefs. They all of a sudden, I think one of their DBs or safety. Yeah, exactly. Kicked in high school. Let's go. And they're getting the operation down right off the bat. It's a major part, absolutely. And you see one part of it go down, and you lose a football game that you should have lost. Simple as that.
Yeah. Yep. And like I said, long term, I'm not holding this much in any standard. It doesn't change my opinion of the Steelers until they have an offense. I don't believe they can be a competitive team.
Joe Burrow's got to clean that up, though. Like that was pretty bad choices on his part. He cannot throw a couple of those balls. He cannot. Like it's just not good quarterback play right there.
That is the worst game I have seen Joe Burrow play in the NFL. I can't off the top of
there
my
were
head.
There were some real rough ones, obviously, in that first season, but because he was absolutely getting mauled.
He was getting mauled.
What do you want? I'm getting sacked 8 times this game. What the fuck?
I can't imagine this is like a new norm thing for Burrow, and it's just one of those things where week 1 you just didn't have it, and you tried to force too much. That's the kind of thing you get reined back in on real quick. I think he'll be okay. The Bengals are going to be okay. I'm not.
But this was though. I mean, this is a little bit alarming for as much as we were kind of high on them, and it was something they did address this offseason. This was a 8-sack game. 8 sacks, I believe, if I'm counting this right. Against Joe Burrow cannot be getting sacked 8 times. You cannot be letting this happen again.
that is my one concern. Now, I will again chalk that down to this offensive line not really knowing each other that well, and maybe some miscommunication on some blocks, right? Yeah. Especially when you're facing a guy like T.J. Watt, right? Cam Hayward. These are guys that you're going to have to double team at some point, and I'm thinking maybe some miscommunication on those double team stuff like that. Too many veteran guys on this line who have been good in the NFL for too long for them to all fall apart at the same time. I think as the season goes along, you get a little bit more familiar with each other, how you play, who's got you covered on certain stunts, and who's ready to shift on certain things, right? I think at that point you'll see this offensive line tighten the screws a little bit, but that is concerning. I'll agree with that. Definitely, you don't want to see your quarterback getting hit that many times in a game.
Yeah. Um, yeah, we'll keep it moving along here into what was I would say surprisingly high scoring game. I expected this to be a little bit uh, toned down, at least on one side, anyways. But the Philadelphia Eagles going into Detroit and taking it, but just barely. A Detroit team that looked like they got that fight in them, like we've all been hoping for. But unfortunately, still taking the loss in this one. A very interesting. This was probably one of the more rushing heavy games of the weekend. And yeah, what can you say about this Philly team? That I mean, AJ Brown looks like a damn good investment for him. He was the star kind of receiving on the receiving side of things, and then DeAndre Swift for the Lions, like hell of a game from that guy. So made for a very interesting game, and kind of one of the I would say if it wasn't for the Chiefs absolutely blowing up the Cardinals, probably the highest scoring game of the week.
I think it still is, right?
Might be actually, yeah, yeah, because
Um,
it's 73 points.
yeah, I think the Chiefs' Zona was only 65,
Yeah, because they put up like a
44,
40 and something.
21.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
a
no,
lot of points in a game you wouldn't expect a lot of points potentially.
no, it's especially if it was close, right? There's a world where I could have seen Philadelphia putting up 38, but in
Yeah,
that world, the Lions get blown out in this
yeah,
game.
20 something. Yeah, if that.
Yeah, and to the credit of the Lions, they did not. They hung in there in this game. Jared Goff, as much shit as we want to give him,
Yeah.
handled the ball well. Listen, you can argue he had a simple job of give the ball to DeAndre Swift, which is in a way not wrong. But he still threw the ball 37 times,
Yeah.
completing 21 of them for 215 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did have the pick, but that's a pretty decent stat line.
Yeah. I mean, and you
Um,
got to be happy with you're seeing some stuff out of St. Brown for the
yeah,
Lions. That's some good
DJ
numbers
Chark.
there. A guy who they are gonna go to. Yeah, Chark, absolutely. And then I mean, I would expect Jamal Williams he's gonna be a guy that's gonna be able to punch it in for you. And DeAndre Swift is Swift. He's
He's a
got it.
beast.
He's got the legs. He's able to move, and it was pretty impressive to see how much offense they were able to put up. On the other side, Jalen is gonna burn you just the same way, and they're gonna have this committee of backs. They got three guys I think they trust on that Philly side outside of
Yep.
Jalen Hurts to run the ball. Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, all contributing in each of their own right, and it's pretty impressive to see on that side. And then AJ Brown obviously looking like a good piece that they added.
Yep. I like the Eagles' offense looked great. I am concerned about the Eagles' defense.
Absolutely.
I like the Eagles' offense putting up 38 against the Lions. Yeah, look great, and that's awesome to see. The
Fletcher,
Eagles have higher aspirations than the Detroit Lions. Let's be honest.
yeah, Fletcher Cox looking every bit as old.
We mentioned it last week,
Yeah,
right? That the interior of that offensive line looks very old, and
yeah,
is there a chance to run against this team? I think the answer is yes.
yeah, yeah,
Um, now, uh, you were facing DeAndre Swift. You are not the first team DeAndre Swift has done this to, but that is concerning. Um, for the Lions defense, I expected it to be stronger than that. But again, week one, a bunch of rookies and new faces on there, maybe still trying to gel together a little bit. I think this spoke more positively to the Lions' offense than anything else in this game because if you can't expect DeAndre Swift to go for 144 every week, but if you can get DeAndre Swift 15 to 20 carries and get him around that 100-yard mark, I think this Lions team's gonna have a good chance to win quite a few games. And I mentioned it last week. I think this Lions team is significantly better than they were last year. Let's not forget this is also an offense that was probably missing its number one offensive weapon in Jameson Williams, who's still not quite ready to go yet. He's going to be a huge addition to that receiving core and probably steps in as your number one guy right away. It,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to look at this game for the Lions and go really negative about it despite the loss. You were playing a team that is among the top four in the NFC, in my opinion, and the Eagles. You kept it close with them despite the fact that their offense went off. That I never would have thought could have happened. I think there's a lot of good signs for the Lions. For the Eagles, this is the minimum bar you had to clear. You had to beat the Lions. If everything that has been touted about you and that you have been touting about yourself, that you are the threat in the NFC East, that you are finally a team out of the NFC East that can compete with the big boys in the NFC, the bar of this game was winning. And you did it.
Yeah.
Offense looked good, defense scares me a little bit. But I think I'm more impressed with the Lions out of this, despite losing, than I am with the Eagles in victory. And I feel like we said that a lot last year, but this time it feels different. I promise.
I mean, I think there's no doubt that there's going to be some energy behind this team. I mean,
Yeah.
the Eagles obviously. Yeah, and I say both these teams. The Eagles obviously, with all the moves they made, they were a hot pick for a lot of guys, a lot of folks, for the NFC kind of comeback team of the year, more or less.
Yeah.
Even though they did make the playoffs last year, just barely, but
They snuck in the playoffs. They
yeah,
snuck.
a team that's shown something in the past, and so absolutely. And then you got Detroit, obviously, with Hard Knocks, and just if you watch their games last season, just scrappy. They were able to hang in
Yeah.
games. They didn't put up a lot of actual wins, but you just know they're on the cusp. They weren't getting absolutely handled every week. Like those teams, you could joke around and think that they're gonna do something next year, but how can you really believe that? Detroit actually had some reason to believe they could pick up some of these wins.
They weren't the 0-16 Lions that never looked like they were competitive at all.
Right.
This was a team that looked like we said it all season. This is not a team that's going to go 0-4. They're going to win a couple games. They didn't even finish last,
Yeah.
right? For all of that start, that 0-11 start, and everybody laughed, they didn't finish last. They were not the worst team in the NFL last year.
Yeah.
Um, I think the Lions have a little bit of juice there. I don't know if it's I want to believe in MCDC or I do believe in MCDC. Um, but his players play for him, man. They'll run through brick walls for him. You could see it without watching Hard Knocks, and then you watch Hard Knocks, and oh yeah, no, it's true. They will just run through walls for this man.
Yeah.
Um, their favorites this week for the first time in 2 years. I think that
Yep.
they are a favorite team. I think there's a lot of positives out of this game for the Lions and to a case for the Eagles as well. Like I said, this was minimum bar you had to clear, but you cleared it, right? A lot of teams didn't clear that minimum bar. There's a lot of teams that got tripped by that bar.
Yeah. Absolutely. This first week, and one team we could say that absolutely. They look nothing but flat, and this is a game that they weren't, I believe, expected to win anyways. But quite the surprise in how flat they looked. New England going down to Miami and getting kind of stomped. They get a garbage touchdown toward the end of that game, I believe, at garbage time. But 20-7, Miami taking it at home. Quite an interesting performance, and for when you kind of dive into some of your stuff, the one thing that really stood out to me in this game, um, only one pick for Mac Jones, give it that, but a lot of pass deflections for the Dolphins. And on the other side, Tua, although not an incredibly stellar game, 23 of 33, 271 tutty, didn't have a pick, and not a single pass deflection by the Patriots in that game against Tua. So he had some missed balls, but he's not missing them to the defense, or at least not to that New England defense. So a very measured game, it seemed like, from the Dolphins. They only do put up 20 points in what was mostly a rout, but yeah, New England obviously stumbling out. I would say anybody outside of Damian Harris didn't look very good for the Pats.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to glean out of this game for the Patriots, how bad it is. Because, like, obviously what I glean out of this game for the Patriots is that stunk.
Right.
Like, that was bad.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if I'm supposed to glean that, like, we need to hit the panic button already, or if I'm supposed to glean that, like, it was a really bad performance and let's work it out. I think this is the game this week where we figure that out.
Yeah.
Mac Jones, as you mentioned, didn't look great at times, didn't look awful at other times. Let's be honest. This Patriots receiving core is not the greatest. They got a couple guys. I like Kendrick Bourne, but he's not outstanding by any means. Nelson, I will always drop the ball. Aguilar is out there, right? You got Jonnu Smith is okay.
Yep.
You got a lot of guys who are okay, but where's the guy who, when you need to make a pass, where's your guy? Right? You look at all of the great teams that are in the league right now.
Yeah.
When you need to make a pass, you got a guy. We saw it with Philly last week. Jalen Hurts needs to make a pass, there's A.J. Brown. Mahomes needs to make a big first down, where's Travis Kelce? Right? New England doesn't have that guy. Hell, we saw it with the Dolphins against them. Tua needs to make a big pass. Okay, Tyreek, go long. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like, I like a couple of the guys on the Patriots. I mean, Kendrick Bourne, I don't think he's the one, but
no.
he's kind of there now and kind of stuck with it. You know who's really been disappointing for me, and really been disappointing for me ever since he really got on the Patriots? Hunter Henry. Last couple seasons has absolutely fallen off. He was a hot, like, that was an up and coming tight end, I felt, for the Titans, right? When he started with them. And since getting on the Pats, he has, I mean, I know they had Jonnu Smith, so it's kind of a 1-2 dynamic that they have there, kind of the throwback to the Gronk and crazy son of a bitch's name. I can't remember him. But, Hernandez.
Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah. Kind of like almost a throwback to that almost, is like that 1-2 dynamic there on that. But yeah, like now you can't even. And Devontae Parker too. That's another guy who, some good skills there. But yeah, just kind of has disappeared. But yeah, this is a one game thing, obviously. Opening week of the season. It looked every bit as opening game of the season. And this was a Pats team that was reported to be really shaky on the offensive side all through training camp, all through the preseason.
Yeah.
And we kind of saw that in some of their preseason games as well. They did not look good in the preseason at all. So this is going to be some growing pains, I think. They're probably going to take some bumps here early. I don't think you'd say that that's going to be the case maybe down the line. I think this team's going to get better, hopefully, as it continues, if, save any kind of injuries or something that really put the bump in the road. But yeah, I think this might be a tricky one for New England going forward.
I wonder who their guy is, right? Right. I wonder who is that guy who can really step up and be the guy. Because Mac Jones is a good quarterback. Yeah. Make no mistake about it. Mac Jones is a good NFL quarterback. If he wants to take a step beyond good NFL quarterback, he needs that guy.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have it right now. And that, I think, is the concerning thing to me for the Patriots. Because I looked at that game last week against the Dolphins, and I didn't think, this is bad. I thought, man, you guys reek of 9-8.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's obviously some good stuff here, and I see all but you guys just reek of 9-8,
And we'll get
and
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get to it in a little bit here as we go in to the next week's game. But they do kind of get an interesting one here. You're going
yeah,
up against a pet team next that
that
is
also
probably not
reeks of 9-8. To be
true.
fair,
What they did have a really good outing by their defense,
yes,
and especially their secondary. So Mac Jones is gonna have to watch out.
yep.
It's gonna have to get better there. We'll get into that game soon enough. But yeah, surprising one. Miami. Clean game, Tua, and I think as much as he said, I kind of agree. I think the Chiefs will be pretty fine without Tyreek Hill. It's that much more of an addition, I think, obviously
Oh,
for
of
this
course.
Dolphins offense. Waddle there too. Like that's such a powerful 1-2 for them. I think they're gonna be hard to cover. Hill and Waddle out there is going to be pretty nasty, and then Gesicki is obviously going to be a benefactor of that as well down the line.
I only say losing Tyreek Hill makes the Chiefs better because you take the handcuffs off of Patrick Mahomes a
Sure,
little bit,
sure.
right? It opens up Patrick Mahomes to do some more crazy Patrick Mahomes shit that's not just get the ball to Tyreek.
Right.
Tua Tagovailoa is not Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I think he's a good quarterback. He's certainly not Patrick Mahomes. So you give him a Tyreek Hill who it gives him that safety blanket that, hey, I'm in trouble. I don't have time to go through my reads. Let's just huck one up to Tyreek. That's a damn good thing to have for a guy like Tua.
Oh yeah.
And you're right. You add Jalen Waddle to that, that's a scary 1-2 combo. I yeah, I love this game for the Dolphins. Their defense obviously played strong. I think everybody kind of expected that. We saw it with the Dolphins defense last year. It's a good defense. You combine that with the weapons they now have on offense. Listen, there's a reason that everybody thinks they're the second best team in the NFC East. There's a reason that people think they're probably a playoff team. And we saw it in week one.
Yeah.
Strong defense, an offense that will do enough to get that defense across the line. That's all. That's the formula of a winning team.
Yeah. I think they're going to be a fun team to watch too. I think.
Yeah.
I think a lot of dynamic play kind of on both sides of the ball. Obviously we've kind of raved about some of the offensive aspects of it. That defense, every bit of it as well. Especially some nice secondary pieces there. So
I will say they need to find a way to run the ball. You get away with it week one against the Patriots.
right,
They got to find some way to run the ball. Raheem Mostert and Chase Edmonds did not have it in week one. Uh, Now, granted, it is a New England Patriots defense.
yeah,
Historically, running on Bill Belichick teams is hard to do. Um, that is the one thing that concerned me about that Dolphins game is you've got to find a way to get the ball moving forward in the run game.
yeah, and one team that they will have to find that against because I believe they play this season. It's going to be the Baltimore Ravens because they were clearly able to stop the run. Going to the next game as they go into New York and just kind of soundly beat the Jets 24-9. Um, a I don't have crazy much to say. This was kind of more or less what was expected, I suppose. The craziest thing to me in this game is how the fuck does Joe Flacco throw the ball for 59 times in this game? Absolutely absurd number. I understand they were down, but the
Yeah, you're
fact that
down
you
most of the game.
you run the ball with your back 16 times and you have Joe Flacco throwing it 59 times, are you fucking kidding me?
And you fairly productively ran the ball in those
I
16 times.
don't get it.
Michael Carter, 6.0 a carry, right? Brees Hall, almost 4 yards a carry. You had some production out of your running backs.
Did they just do like that like the pass that's not really a pass? Did they run like just a bunch of those sweeps and they counted
No,
passes? But like no, dude, like
no.
that's just crazy to me.
They
I
just had Flacco hucking the ball. Hey,
absolutely
I
absurd.
respect the balls of that, but that's still Joe Flacco in the year of our Lord 2022. 10 years since the one playoff run that he had that has made him a relevant quarterback. And we still have teams letting him throw the ball 59 times. Absolute madness.
Then the next
Um
day, you're welcome. Yeah.
uh,
We cursed you all with this.
what surprised me is the Ravens' inability to run the ball in that game. The Jets' defense held that Ravens' run game in check.
No, this.
And I'll be the first to admit, I didn't think the Jets had the athleticism
Yeah.
to hold the edges on Lamar and on those read options. I really thought they were going to be able to find the edges on him. It did well. Held
Yeah.
Kenyon Drake in check. Held Lamar Jackson in check.
It's actually I've gotten a little bit of familiarity, at least with individual players. I mean, like Solomon Thomas on this team, so I want to see him do well. He'll get his every now and then. You have some kind of names that have like had their time and popped up. LaMarcus Joyner, Quan Alexander, Sheldon Rankins, like these guys have had like, and now you know you have that young Quinn Williams as well. This is a defense, I think, with Bob Sala that is going to be pretty solid. But yeah, it has to get figured out on that offensive end. You can't just be putting up 9 points.
As an aside, man, did Sauce Gardner look good out
Yeah,
there.
absolutely. There you go.
Like, I know, first game of the season, they had him up against Mark Andrews the whole game. For one thing, Jets, listen to me, don't do that.
That's
I love Sauce, but that's a big size mismatch to take advantage of. That being said, he did an outstanding job of keeping Mark Andrews in check. That play that he made, saving the touchdown in the second quarter, I think it was, where he gets beat off the line by Andrews, has unbelievable recovery speed to come back and knock this ball away. And I'd like to remind you, his speed was his biggest knock. The thing that people knocked him for was he only ran a 4.59 at the compound, right? Like he had a slow 40 time. Sauce Gardner looks like the real deal.
yeah.
That is the positive I will throw out there for the Jets. Sauce Gardner looks legit as hell. And yeah, I thought he played an awesome game. Outside of that, man, don't let Joe Flacco throw the ball 59 times when you're running the ball decently well. Try to run the ball a little bit more next week, Jets.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of that's the main thing. I think you actually have a decent chance to win that game if you could be a little bit more efficient on offense.
Your defense played decent. Your defense played
Yeah.
pretty well. Like,
Yeah.
just don't throw the ball 59 times.
And it's it's like uh, it you go in at a half, you're down a tutty. Like this didn't get away from you, even if when they score again. Like they just abandoned it. They just abandoned it and just started throwing the ball. We'll go on to the next one here, and suppose you want to talk about a little bit about our boy Trevor Lawrence on this one. A kind of surprising to the wire game, very back and forth between these two guys. Jacksonville going into Washington, and unfortunately dropping it. They lose 28-22 against the Commies. Carson Wentz leading the Commanders down the field, and pulling out a surprise win with 2 minutes left there.
I said it last week. This is what Carson Wentz does.
Yes.
Wait until week 15 when the games matter and he starts throwing 8 picks a game.
Yep.
Then we'll talk about Carson Wentz.
Absolutely. 4
Trevor
tutties.
Lawrence is a fascinating case to me of how you fuck up a career, Jacksonville. This is his second year now. How do we still not have an offensive line for this guy?
Yeah.
For one. Yeah. Okay. So everybody's going to look at the Christian Kirk. 6 receptions, 117 yards. Man, what a game for Christian Kirk. Most of that came on 2 receptions. The other 4 receptions were nothing burgers. I think he had like a 40-yarder and a 48-yarder or something like that.
Yeah.
There's all of your yards. 4 nothing burger receptions for Christian Kirk, who, when they really needed him late in the game, I could have covered him. He looked that invisible. You are killing him. You are killing the man. This was the can't miss product. He was. They said if you drafted him out of high school, he would have been the first overall pick. He was gift wrapped. Here you go, Jacksonville. Don't fuck it up. You're fucking it up. I
Yeah, I mean, no crazy surprise on that end. It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough for quite a bit for him. And whether, he's already kind of come out and had a viewpoint of, I don't think football's not his life, that sort of thing. He is going to just kind of retire when he wants to because he's just kind of done with it. And that might just be a lot sooner due to Jacksonville. We will see. We will see, like, after his rookie contract goes. I mean, I can't imagine he re-signs with this team. Um,
I wouldn't.
we yeah. I'm almost to the mindset we'll see where the second destination is for Trevor Lawrence and see if it could be redeemed at that point. You
But
gotta hope that would be
at
the
that
case.
point, you're talking about a rehab project,
Yeah, of
right?
course. Yeah, it's
Like
gonna be tough.
this. I speak again from the position of a college football fan who watched Trevor Lawrence play at Clemson. He was untouchable. The guy had a skill set you couldn't make up. If you put the stats don't go high enough in a Madden game. Like, how do you not get this, Jackson?
Yeah.
Get this guy an offensive line. Get him a couple of decent receivers. Run the ball. You have James Robinson and Travis Etienne. You have two very good running backs.
Yeah.
Use them more. Let's try to salvage this thing, Jacksonville. Come on.
Yeah.
This is starting to get sad, man, because I'm sick of Trevor Lawrence lines being 24 of 42 for 275, a touchdown and a pick. That just shouldn't be it. That shouldn't be his peak.
But I mean, this is. I mean, yeah. This. I I'm just not shocked by it. I suppose it's just kind of a. This was very much the kind of game they'll keep it competitive. They'll actually have the potential to win this game. Get completely folded in toward the end here, lose it again. Like, this team's just destined to be another first round picker, or first pick, I should say, not first round. But yeah, I don't have much hope for him in Jacksonville. Now, that being said, it's not like the Washington Commanders is going to be looking any better anytime soon. But yeah, this is the kind of thing. Carson Wentz is going to pick up some of these wins early on for this team. They will hang around. They'll probably be relevant in that NFC East just because it's the NFC and they're in the NFC East. But yeah, just an unfortunate. It's gonna be a rough season for Trevor Lawrence, no doubt.
Yeah, and then next year they'll spend 80 million over 3 seasons on Sterling Shepard and feel great about it. Let's go, baby.
Yeah,
Resetting the market again. I
yeah.
don't know, man. I don't I don't know anymore.
All right. We'll move on to even more depressing games. Now, actually, obviously a very interesting one, a back and forth, one decided on the leg on a 58-yard field goal to end it. The Cleveland Browns going into Carolina and stealing one right at the end
It is more
against
depressing in a way.
Baker and the boys. My one takeaway from this game, I mean, Nick Chubb obviously still that guy.
Oh, he that guy.
And Christian McCaffrey obviously is going to be handled with very, very delicate hands moving forward. Don't get him injured like within the first 4 weeks. Basically, I think might be the goal for the Panthers. Still try to get him some touches, some looks, some rushes, whatever. But yeah, limited usage of him in that game. Although he had the second most catches on the team, and obviously the 10 rushes to go along with that. So he was actually probably their most utilized weapon. But still, kind of measured there. Yeah, and what a Jacoby Brissett game. 18-34 for 147, a tutty, and a win.
Gonna
And a
win.
win somehow,
Never
some way
has
he
there been a
did it.
more Jacoby Brissett game.
I mean, shit. Dub's a
I
dub.
even like Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, I
I
do
think he's a
actually.
decent
Yeah,
backup.
he's all right.
But like, man, if there was ever a Jacoby Brissett game, um, yeah, that's what that you know what you're gonna get out of Jacoby Brissett. He's not gonna make mistakes, right? He's gonna play it safe. You're not gonna lose many games because of Jacoby Brissett. You're also not gonna win many games because of Jacoby Brissett.
Right.
It's gonna be based on what happens around him more often than not. And in this case, Nick Chubb happened around him. Man, Nick Chubb is good at football.
Yeah.
There are some people out there who will demean this poor man because he doesn't catch the ball. I don't give a fuck if you catch the ball if you run for 141. Do that all the time.
Yeah.
We will win a lot. Um, man, what a game he had. Uh, Panthers side, you feel for Baker. Obviously, you can tell he wanted this one, but if they weren't going to utilize Christian McCaffrey, why bring him back? I'm sorry. I get it.
It,
Careful. Don't break the Christian McCaffrey. But, like,
this team actually, for being in the lead and just barely losing it, they just generally just didn't even have much offense. Actually,
no.
it just like
No.
it was very limited. A lot of their drives stalled out very quickly. They were able to actually take advantage of the drives they were able to move down the very few times they were able to. They were able to put up points, but yeah, it was a weird lack of offense. They did get some short fields, I believe, as well. But yeah, kind of a just a yeah, unfortunate and a Panthers team that you put a good quarterback back there, you get a Christian McCaffrey back. You're hoping you could kind of pull it together with guys like Robbie Anderson and a DJ Moore, that sort of thing. But yeah, just unfortunate.
I actually quite like Robbie Anderson. I don't. I don't. I don't look at the Panthers situation the way I look at the Patriots situation, for example. I actually quite like Robbie Anderson a lot. I think with like a good quarterback back there, Robbie Anderson could shine. I don't hate DJ Moore either, by the way. I think he's a decent enough 2-3 option kind of guy, but
Sure.
I really like Robbie Anderson, and I think it's a shame he hasn't had the greatest quarterback room to play with because of that, I think he's a little bit underrated in the league. Um, I'd actually like to see him somewhere where he gets like a good quarterback to really unlock that guy. But yeah, you know, I don't have much to say about this game. It was two
It
teams that probably aren't going to be great, at least for the first 11 weeks for the Browns, and then we'll see where they're at later.
Yeah, I think it's a it was impressive to see. You get some life out of this team as far as the Panthers were concerned, because this game was kind of crap until about the fourth quarter, basically. 27 game, and yeah, the Panthers hadn't been doing much, and they're able to rally very nicely. At toward the end, but a just a little. It's a little unfortunate. I mean, you have this game. You feel like you're pretty set. A little over a minute left. You go up with a field goal, and yeah, all it takes is just a few plays. Um, all of a sudden, they're kicking a field goal the other way, and you lose to a 58-yarder. I don't think you can be crazy disappointed. You
No,
you pretty much did your job right there. Um, just yeah, great leg, and yeah, Cade York. I mean, what a fucking game for him, I suppose, for the Browns. But
anybody who
good for
watched
him.
some friggin' some LSU football knows Cade York is the real fucking deal, man.
Yeah.
That dude can kick a football. Was sensational at LSU. Glad to see him. Glad to see him playing well in the NFL as well.
Let's keep it moving though, as we actually got about an hour or so here. the just an amazingly flat game that what a rally back and then ends up a tie. A classic tie. The
They
Colts
both lose. They're losers.
the Colts just kind of seemingly just continuing where they left off last year, no matter who they have at quarterback, and coming out to a tie against the Texans here, 20-20. Um, Able to rally back very nicely in the fourth quarter to get to that point, but not able to get the job done in overtime. Neither team really able to get the job done in overtime. Uh, Rodrigo Blankenship losing his job over this goddamn game. Tough.
Rip.
Tough one.
Especially, yeah, the overtime miss was bad. It was his only miss of the game. Like, man, kicking field goals in the NFL is a harsh job.
I guess this isn't like the first one of late that he's missed. Like he's had a little bit of a history with this, so this is kind of like last straw sort of thing. But damn, like game one, like that's rough. That's rough. Usually, I would think you'd get maybe a couple more opportunities to get it back, but yeah, that it was uh, pretty surprising game overall. Davis Mills looking decent out there. Pretty measured game. Didn't make any real mistakes, except for the fumble loss he had. You know, Offensive line a little bit probably to blame for that one as well. Yeah, and you get an all right game out of Brandon Cooks. A lot of people targeted. Very interesting how many. Looks like there's at least a lot of depth as far as who they want to go to as far as the Texans are concerned, because they're willing to throw the ball around to goddamn anybody basically. Um, Pittman on the other side looks like him and Ryan have a decent rapport with one another. Seeing 13 targets, 9 catches, pretty nice. Ryan having to throw the ball 50 times is insane, and you'd be like, what the hell happened to Jonathan Taylor? No, Jonathan Taylor rushed the ball for 31 times for 161 yards. So over a 5 yard average and a tutty on there. It's a weird game to look at stat wise because that didn't really happen until the fourth quarter. They weren't doing shit. So definitely a big shift in that. And yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess if you're Houston, you have to be happy that you came out with a tie. You also have to be disappointed because you were up 20-3 in the fourth quarter, and you let this one get away in a game you should have stolen at home.
Yep. Quite like Davis Mills. He played a good game. That Jonathan Taylor, very good at football. Um,
What do you
I
think
do
about
want
Matt
to.
Ryan here? I
I
gotta I gotta hear for because you have probably seen Matt Ryan more than 95% of the population at least, right? You've seen this guy. How do you think? I mean, like they're obviously gonna let him throw the fucking rock. That's for damn sure.
it is the most Matt Ryan game to ever Matt Ryan itself.
Sure.
Um, all the numbers look good. They're big. They're big numbers. It's great. Matt Ryan
The
has
big numbers, the good, yeah, good, good
has
numbers.
this innate inability to close out games that is shocking. It's borderline a disease at this point. His inability
Jeez.
to win football games. I love Matt Ryan. I adore Matty Ice. I want to see him do well. I thought it was a Falcons thing. I still kind of think it's a Falcons thing. Let's face it. We had a 96% chance of winning last week. Didn't.
Yeah.
But when push comes to shove, and you need that last thing to get you over the line, he can never find it. He can never find it. Couldn't find it in 28-3, right? He couldn't find it for many years before that, like people forget, it's not like the Falcons came out of nowhere that year. They were a consistent playoff team there for 3, 4, 5 years, and they just couldn't get over the hump. He just can't get over the hump.
Yeah.
I don't know. He does have a great rapport with Pittman. I thought him and Naheem Hines looked really good on passing downs. I think having Naheem Hines for passing downs is going to help Jonathan Taylor a lot this year. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
And they're just absolutely destroyed with injuries this week, so good luck. Uh, I do want to throw out there, Quiddy Pay looked great.
Hmm.
Man, Quiddy Pay, that was a great draft pick by you guys. Congratulations. But yeah, I don't know. I like Davis Mills. I man, Davis Mills can play some football. Um,
Yeah, I mean, for a team that's they it seemed like they were going to be in a situation where they're just not going to have anything back there. Davis Mills kind of steadily, it wasn't good at first. It looked kind of ugly, and then kind of settled in. And
yeah,
it'll be interesting. He'll be an interesting player to look at for how long you can potentially actually stay as a starter in the league. Because I would have written him off for a 1 year guy, and then all of a sudden, yeah, now he kind of comes around and he plays pretty well at the end of last year. And if he keeps this stuff going, it's like that's the rare thing. A good starting NFL quarterback. There's not 32 of them in the league right now.
no,
That's for damn
nope.
sure. So if you're one of those 20-something guys that could stay in there, fucking all the credit, Davis Mills, man.
And let's be honest, he's doing this with not the greatest skill position setup. We
Sure.
still don't really know what's going on at running back with them between Rex Burkhead and Dameon Pierce. Neither one of them looking particularly good in that game. You have Brandon Cooks, who I think is a solid number two who borders on a number one, but I don't know if he's a number one wide receiver on most teams.
I think this is a tough game. They definitely tried to run the ball along
Yeah.
with what the Colts did. They got stopped a lot, but this is a really tough team. I mean, you're talking DeForest Buckner and gone,
Yeah.
just a yeah. This is probably one of the hardest defensive lines to run an interior against, and I think that's what exactly Houston wants to do is run the ball up the middle on you. So yeah,
Maybe,
a tough matchup. But yeah,
it could be. Well, I just don't know if they have the guys to run the ball like that. Like, listen,
you're not wrong. Yeah,
Rex Burkhead is
he's not really.
Rex
Yeah,
Rex Burkhead,
yeah,
right?
and,
What do we have in Damian Pierce? I don't know. It's hard to say.
yeah. He's the guy that
Uh,
could do that for you. Rex Burkhead is probably you're running him
yeah,
off tackle more or less.
yeah, maybe. It's hard to say, right? It's hard to say what their running game's going to look like going forward. Maybe that helps, but
Yeah.
I don't love their receiver situation. I like the way they used OJ Howard in the red zone. He only got the 2 catches. Both of them were touchdowns.
Yeah.
They made it clear. Like, listen, OJ Howard is when we are at the 20 or so yard line, we're looking for OJ Howard, and I think that's a solid role for him. Um, yeah, some good, some bad for both teams. Hence a tie. You're both losers. We'll see you in week 2.
There you go. Let's keep it moving to a game that, man, as close to a tie as you could have been, but one pulls out just 1 point more to make it not a tie. And probably my best pick of the week. I was super happy that I nailed this one. It's the only good pick I really had. The New York Giants go into Tennessee and steal one against the Titans 21-20. Quads. Vintage quads. Like, this is...
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's dangerous. If this team actually has that, and Danny Dimes actually not completely fucking it up. Not bad. Not bad from the Giants.
Daniel Jones. not being a total failure.
I mean,
He
shit, dude. Like that's
he only threw 21 passes, did manage to have a classic Daniel Dimes interception in
if
there.
you could do this week in, week out, you win a lot of football games, I think, for the Giants. Absolutely. If you're able
And
to
you
get
trust
quads
me.
going and you're able to have Daniel Jones throw about mid 20 passes and be decently successful, I think that's a lot of wins for this Giants team. More
Can
wins
you
than we would expected, anyways.
can you trust Saquon to do this week in and week out
Of course
before
not.
he breaks?
Of course not.
I
But that's just it. I didn't expect this from him at all. I was very worried
fair.
about him. Even though I have him drafted in fantasy and I want to see him do well, I also didn't expect 164 as clean as he was. 18 rushes too. It's not like he had a shit ton of runs to do
No,
that.
it was efficient.
Pretty clean.
It was efficient. They're going to need to use Matt Breida more. They just are.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think you look at where they are at. This team cannot win without Saquon Barkley. Same thing with the Titans, by the way.
Yeah.
Less publicized because Henry didn't have as good of a game as Saquon.
Right.
But both these teams are in the same boat of you cannot do what you did in this game with your running backs. Right? You can't. You run Saquon like this all season, you're not going to have Saquon all season. Same thing with Derrick Henry, maybe. I mean, Derrick Henry is less of an injury history, more of one injury that everybody's a little bit scared will become an injury history. But you're going to need to use Breida a little bit more, I think, as the season goes on. That being said, I don't disagree with most of what you said. This needs to be your mark for Daniel Jones passes. You get over like 25, you're probably losing.
Yeah. Pretty much. And I think this is a team that's going to stick to that. I mean, they will run the ball, it seems like.
Oh yeah.
They're going to get, you know, it's not split committee by any means. Quads is going to be your main guy, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They need to get Burrito a little bit involved. Looks like they want to try to get Tony at least a little bit of something. Had one nice carry in that game.
Yeah.
I will say I did bring it up when we were previewing this game last week. Richie James Jr., my guy from the Niners, coming out not too bad. You need every bit of a surprise guy to come out and be a weapon for you as you need on this team. It's probably not going to come from Kenny Galladay anymore. I really don't feel that. Sterling Shepard, like you just kind of said, is probably a guy that's gonna. He might pop off the screen a little bit and might get paid somewhere else.
He's gonna get paid by someone. Probably somebody stupid.
You're gonna need a reliable slot guy. Richie James Jr. could potentially be that for this team. So very impressive there. And balls, just absolute balls from Dayball. Dayballs.
Yeah.
Fucking, you gotta love when a coach just says, "No, we are going to just win the game."
Yeah, we are just going to simply win.
Yeah. Fuck this tie thing.
Yeah, no, I love that, by the way.
Yeah.
This is a game you weren't supposed to be in, right? Like, this is a game that if you looked at it on the schedule, you go, Giants probably aren't supposed to win this game. So fuck it, let's go win it. I love that, right? And you look at the way they played it exactly the only way they could have won that game. That's it. Daniel Jones cannot throw the ball too much. Saquon needs to run his ass off. Defense needs to stand up as well as they possibly can. If they do not get 24 plus on us, we have a shot. And that's exactly what happened, right? The cards fell perfectly to get you into that situation. And Dabble kind of read that and said, fuck it. Let's go for the win.
Oh yeah, no, and you got to do this on the road. A team that you're not necessarily supposed to be. I mean, this was, as much as I feel like they did lose and they're going to take a step back. This is a Tennessee Titans team that won the conference first seed last year. This was a team that's done it. They do have Derrick Henry back. They have a quarterback that they have, had in that system. Not a new system. It's not like a guy you're just plugging in. Ryan Tannehill knows what the fuck's going on by now. But you played well enough and you held them to 20 points. Yeah, absolutely beautiful win from the Giants. This will, I mean, and some surprises in the AFC East for sure, or NFC East for sure. Um,
And
Giants probably
as
the
a
biggest one as
yeah,
far as I'm concerned.
as an aside, Tannehill with a deceivingly good stat line there. As that game got on, Ryan Tannehill looked less and less like he was going to be a factor in that game. Like you see 20 of 33, I think he started out like 10 of 11
Hmm.
or 10 of 12. He started out on an absolute blinder. And as the game went on, just I have no faith in the guy. None. Eh, Tannehill, I'm sorry. I put him in a very similar situation as Daniel Jones. You see a 33 in that attempted column for Ryan Tannehill, that's going to be a loss for the Titans a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it moving here. Onto a this one was the surprise, just smoke show I think of the week for sure. Green Bay going into Minnesota, and the Vikings just putting the screws to the Packers. I know we were a little worried about their weapons and that sort of thing. I mean, and I will. It's hard for me to admit it because I've always kind of just not been about Kirk Cousins, but I mean, hey, got it done. Delvin Cook too, like not a guy I'm usually too high on. Got it done.
Madison as well.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
Madison didn't have as
true.
many carries, but was just as effective, right?
Yeah,
They they played that game exactly like they needed to. They told Rodgers, "Listen, we're not gonna give you the running room." Right. I know Jones's numbers look pretty nice on those 5 carries. And I think it's one big carry that's
yeah.
in there, like a 20-30 yarder that's in there. That's really boosting it. Outside of
Otherwise,
that,
yeah, 4 for 20 outside of that, so still decent.
yeah, like outside of that,
But he needs more than 5 carries. I mean, I understand it's a split with Dylan, but Aaron Jones needs
yeah,
to see a little bit more on that one.
I think just in general you need to see more than 15 carries. Their leading receiver was AJ Dillon.
Hmm.
They don't know where their weapons are. They don't know where their weapons are on offense. Sammy Watkins didn't look great. He looked like Sammy Watkins has the last few years, let's be honest. Christian Watson had that just free touchdown that he
Yeah, right there.
right through, and I think that was it for him in that game. I don't think Rodgers even really looked his way much more after that. Um, Meanwhile, on the other side, hey, that Justin Jefferson guy's a pretty good wide receiver.
Right.
You guys want to try to cover him?
Yeah.
He just went off. And to Kirk Cousins' credit, he was accurate as hell in that game. He was finding his guys every time. And a lot of those passes were just get the ball into Justin Jefferson's hands and let him beat guys. But it's working. Why would you change it? Um, yeah, no, I had no faith in the Packers coming into this game. I have less faith in them now. They don't know who their weapons are. I don't know who their weapons are. They need to run the ball a lot more.
Yeah, this was a yeah, and that's what your strength really should be looking at this team. It's how
Yep.
they actually won a lot last year. You have Aaron Rodgers, but Rodgers had a lot of flat games last season,
Yeah.
and this was every bit of that. This was um, a Minnesota team that uh, no, I can't really see like
If the
like
Packers are a flat team, the NFC North is Minnesota's.
yeah, I would say that at this point. Like, but obviously we're just one game, and we'll see how this shifts, that sort of thing. I I'm gonna hesitate before I really put them ahead in terms of like anything more than maybe double digit wins. 10, 10 wins is about where I see it. I'm right on that fence tilt. But if this continues, obviously you have to put them down for a lot more than 10 wins, for
Only
sure.
because I have no faith in the NFC North right now. I could easily see them being a 12-13 win team. But that's only because, again, you're going to play those three lame duck teams 6 times combined, right? I don't think their schedule outside of that is overly intensive. Like they have the NFC East on their schedule. There's at least probably 2 wins in there, and then the Eagles, right? You have we don't God knows what the Cardinals are,
Yes.
right? You have the Patriots and Jets on that schedule, which again we've talked about them already.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. True.
I could see this team being a 12-13 win team.
Yeah. And let's actually go right into it. You brought up that Cardinals team. Let's go right into the next game here. We already talked about this Chiefs team, so we don't have to hit on that too much. But
Yeah.
obviously, the Cardinals were expected to lose this game as far as the point spread. I thought they would play a bit better than this by a large amount. This game was 37-7 late in the third quarter, going into the fourth. Like, this was a bad, ugly game for the Cardinals. They pick up some garbage points to make this look a little bit better, but this game was all of a 20, 30 point blowout. Patty Holmes, obviously, 365 tutties. You didn't even need to really run the ball that much, but they still got productive yards from 3 of their backs. Like, very clean game for them. On the other side, it's not going to look too bad because it's just 2 touchdowns, no picks right there for Kyler Murray. But I think a lot of misreads. There was a lot of bad misses for Kyler Murray out of those 12 incompletions.
And for an offense like the Cardinals, that's supposed to be high volume, high pace,
Yeah.
big boom. A buck 93 on 22 completions is just not enough.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. I said it when we talked about this game last week that this Cardinals defense worries me a great deal because I don't know who you have to cover receivers, right? I just don't look at their cornerback core and go, here's your guy who shuts down this guy, right? Like we talked about it with the Jets. At least a positive out of that is Sauce Gardner looks damn good. That's a guy who can be a shutdown guy. The Cardinals don't have anything close to that. It wasn't that they couldn't stop the Chiefs' best receiver. They couldn't stop any of the Chiefs' receivers, right? Kelsey went off on them. Juju went off on them. Valdez Scantling had a good game. Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of the backfield had a good game. Sky Moore was targeted once and got 30 yards on him, right? Like they couldn't stop anybody. And if there's still 5 more weeks before you get Nuke Hopkins back, Hollywood Brown looked every bit of the Hollywood Brown he was in the first couple of years with the Ravens before last year when he kind of broke out.
Yeah. You could argue for the Cardinals, their 2 best players that night were Greg Dortch, who is their 4th receiver, and Andy Lee, their punter.
And Andy Lee, their punter,
Their punter had a great game. Fucking booming.
And Andy Lee was doing everything he could to try to flip these fields, but
big leg. Yeah. No, that's a rough game. I'll be very interested to see how this Arizona team responds. Because you could come out flat. It's week 1. It'll literally be 1 game in a 17 game series at the end of it. You got to bounce back though. This is an Arizona team that is expected to at least compete at the top of the NFC West for sure. Right there with the Niners, who also stinker of a game. Rams stinker of a game, and then all of a sudden you have the Seahawks that are the only winning team in that division. We'll get to their game really soon, but yeah, absolutely, you gotta have a little bit more from the Cards, and yeah, I mean Chiefs are coming out firing. 2 games in, they're looking like the Chiefs.
They're looking like the Chiefs.
And we'll go to another team that played last night, and we'll kind of focus a little bit more maybe on the Raiders for this one, as the Raiders went into LA last week and unfortunately dropped it 19-24. That score is a lot closer than this game was. A pretty ugly game, honestly, for the Raiders in this one. Um, the rhythm was not there at all for Derek Carr in this offense. Um, the integration of Devontae Adams is obviously going to be something they've really focused on, and Darren Waller was able to contribute decently. This run game needs to just have a little bit more consistency, and they got to stop turning the goddamn ball over. Because, yeah, there were a couple really bad passes by Derek Carr that just kind of flipped this field on him.
Eric Carr, in his last 13 games, has had 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, and 11 fumbles. He only lost 5 of those 11 fumbles. That's still bad. I don't know how Derek Carr hasn't gotten a Jameis Winston like reputation of he will turn the ball over all the time, but it's starting to get there for him. And I think part of the issue, and this isn't just because I have him in fantasy, but it's an honest to God fact, they need to run the ball more. Like, Josh Jacobs is a good running back. He ran for 5.7 yards a carry. They ran the ball 13 times.
Yeah.
10 of them to Jacobs, 3 to Brandon Bolden.
Here's the thing,
Not,
though. He is getting the best game possible because we just talked about this team. They're getting the Arizona Cardinals next week here.
and that's just it.
That he
You
needs
want
to have it here.
you want a secondary that you can feast on coming off of this. You want a secondary that you can get Devontae Adams some yards, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. You can get all those guys feeling good about the amount of touches they're getting. Arizona's that game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me in this one, obviously, I believe you. We have Keenan Allen go down in this one, so that hurt the Chargers on the other side. Obviously, we then see the performance that Mike Williams has and is able to step up in the that game last night. Eckler, he's gonna get his touches, but yeah, sometimes it's just gonna be ineffective days, like it was for this week for him. But that's just quite all right. I mean, they did enough on the defensive side of the ball to really flip the field for him. They had a lot of short fields to work with. Herbert was able to kind of do his thing. Very efficient night on this one. So yeah, this was the Chargers that you're feeling good about, and as far as AFC, West contender for sure as far as taking that, and then potential AFC Championship team. But then you have the game like last night, and they're dropping leads and not putting their foot down against the Chiefs, which are now now you gotta be like, oh yeah, I mean, until something changes, Chiefs look like still the class of that division. So
Chiefs are the Chiefs.
yep, Chiefs will chief. Keep them moving. This was a tough one on Sunday night, mainly because you got your starting quarterback go down on one side, and then all of a sudden it's just kind of a ugly game from there on out. The Buccaneers going into Dallas, and in a kind of uneventful game for the most part. It was a shame this is kind of the Sunday night game because nothing much happened. A lot of field goals out there. Ryan Suckup looking nice. But the Buccaneers going in 19-3, beating the Cowboys there. Leonard Fournette looking like playoff Lenny. Great game there. Brady, pretty nich game from him, but unfortunately on the other side, yeah, Dak going down. And now, yeah, the Cowboys are looking at Cooper Rush down the line here. The questions have been arisen about Jimmy G, though. Do you bring him in, or do you let Cooper Rush run this team for a couple months?
No.
Yeah.
Listen, if Dallas has any hope of winning the NFC East and making the playoffs, which honestly you're gonna have to win the NFC East to make the playoffs. Let's be real. NFC East ain't getting 2 teams through. You need to figure out quarterback. Listen, Mr. Rush.
Yeah.
This isn't some rookie who you felt like, he needs a little bit of time to develop. Let's let him see. 28 now.
Yeah.
Cooper Rush is what he is. And that is not a guy who can win you many football games. They gotta, for the love of God, use Tony Pollard more. Ezekiel Elliott is just kind of what he is at this point. I know Tony Pollard had a bad game. He got 6 touches.
Yeah.
Can we let the guy... He's the better one now. Of the two, Tony Pollard is the better one. Let's get the ball in his hands a little bit. Let's start letting him do some stuff. Let's get a quarterback in there. Yeah, the Bucs didn't look good, but they did enough to win. Kind of a milquetoast game by Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Leonard Fournette ran the ball well again. Not a surprise at this point. This is just kind of who he is. Losing Chris Godwin's gonna hurt, like, a lot. But I feel no differently about either one of these teams after this game. That's not true. I feel a little bit worse about Dallas without Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
But it's not like I was high on Dallas coming into the season anyways. I just am now a lot lower on them. I said it last week when we were picking this game. This is a must-win game for the Buccaneers, as ridiculous as that sounds in Week 1. Because they could have realistically gone into Atlanta in Week 5 0-4. They got to go to New Orleans now.
Yeah.
A place they never win. Then they got the Chiefs and the Raiders, I believe, after that.
Yeah.
It is a tough schedule.
Oh, yeah.
This was as must-win as a Week 1 game can get. They got it, but it doesn't make me feel any better about them. I said I had reservations about the Buccaneers coming into the season. They're still there.
Yeah, yeah. This Bucs team is gonna have to show more than that. That's for damn sure. I fully expected them to win this game for sure, but it's just, next week will be the telling one. Obviously, this Saints game will be very interesting based on how those two teams played in Week 1 here. And let's wrap it up with last week's game. In a shocker, we both were so certain that I was like, oh, well, let's pick scores because it's not fun to talk about the prediction.
Dude, some crazy lines, shall we?
And we had some nutty lines. I had this as a 35-13 win for Denver. Craig had it 34-17. But no, Denver is going to just fuck it all up with clock management at the end for a game they could have still stuck out a win, but they lost, and 16-17 to Seahawks.
I will say I did get the Seahawks score right, if that counts for anything.
No.
I did have the Seahawks on 17.
No, you can't win. The other score was 20 off, just about 18 off.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
The crazy thing to me is, it's not even like the Broncos offense didn't have a pretty decent game. 29-42 for 340 and a touchdown. Like, you'd want another couple touchdowns on there, but that's not a bad stat line. Yeah. They ran the ball fine, right? Jerry Jeudy had a great game. Cortland Sutton looked good. Javonte Williams, as a guy who could be a check down yards eater guy, looked very good at that. Geno Smith in the second half had 42 passing yards.
Yeah.
Nothing about this game makes sense.
Yeah, it was a fugly one for sure. Kind of rough for the end of day games, honestly. Actually, if you're taking the whole Week 1 slate, it was like 4 awesome morning games and then really one good afternoon game and then a crap Sunday night game and a crap Monday night game, honestly. That's basically what it came down to. But thrilling. Games. I will say, actually, I said crap Monday night game. This still came down to right at the end. And then, The only real notable thing, how the hell do you not try to 4th and 5? You put yourself in the situation. You made up a lot of time. Yeah, exactly. The Peyton freaking the fuck
Peyton,
out. But like, yeah, man, that's tough. You could like your kicker. You could think that he could hit a 63-yarder. He probably fucking like has
at
a
the leg.
decent leg and a good chance, like percentage wise. You
I'm not betting the game
you
on it.
got to you got to just go for it on 4th and 5. Russell
I'm not
Wilson.
betting the game on a 63-yarder.
It's a situation that you want. This is why you got him. This is exactly what you're looking for. This is, I need a quarterback that has the ability to perform late in game, win this game, put our team in the position to win the game, or a better position, that sort of thing. And as soon as that comes up, you take that away. It's just absolutely insane that they decided then to uh, just
Burn clock
completely,
and
yeah,
kick a
just
63-yarder.
yeah, just be that passive with it. It is a you're scared. You're scared at that point. You're like
Yep.
you're showing real fear of the situation, basically.
Yeah.
Instead of just
100%.
attacking it, you're playing as passive and defensive as possible.
Yeah.
And it paid, and they paid for it.
Yeah, it bit them. It
yeah.
bit them.
But
Yeah. Nothing
you
else to
know,
say there.
Ace.
Game was weird. The
Yeah.
score, like the stat line is bizarre.
Yeah.
The Broncos dominate every statistical category possible and lose.
And Seattle is first in the NFC West for probably the only time this season. But there you go.
Definitely the only time
The
this season.
wacky world of Week 1. So let's go through. We'll go into Week 2. We'll just kind of hit on each of these games. We'll probably do this a little rapid fire if you don't mind.
Yeah, not at all.
We don't have a crazy amount of time. But let's jump into it. Week 2. We obviously already hit upon that Kansas City Chargers game. Kansas City Chiefs versus Los Angeles Chargers game. Yeah, close score at the end, but really, yeah, Chiefs being able to kind of put their foot down there. Going into the early morning games, first one right off the bat, New York Jets going into Cleveland. Face off against the Browns. Browns getting -6.5 here at home against the Jets. Who do you got?
Okay.
All right.
So
We
Browns are
know
gonna-
our feeling about the Browns.
The Browns are the Browns, and
Yeah.
at some point we got to put the personal feelings aside. We're trying to get picks right here.
Yes.
The Chiefs, the Jets stink.
Right.
The Jets are bad, and they're starting Joe Flacco. And if you're gonna have Joe Flacco throwing the ball like he did last time, you're gonna lose again, probably by a chunk. Give me the Browns.
Yeah.
The part of me that wants to see the Browns fail at everything hates this, but I don't know. With Joe Flacco back there, no, I don't know what the Jets can do in this one.
I have the Jets. And this is why. I think this defense, they've showed a little something last week that could have been a lot worse of a game than it was against the Ravens. They obviously did not look good on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think Joe Flacco throws the ball 50 damn near fucking times this time. I think he keeps it to about 30. I think this team runs the ball a little bit more. Maybe has a little bit more trust in guys like a Breece Hall. Their other back, I know they showed a few more looks to actually during the game. Then we get a little bit more involved in that. And I think this defense has the ability to. I mean, it's hard to say they're going to stop Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb will still do pretty well, but this is still a Jacoby Brissett-led Browns team. It's not going to be that dynamic, that powerful. I think this is something that Bob Saleh could scheme for, and I think they'll keep this a little bit closer. So I like with that 6.5 point spread, I like the Jets.
That's fair. I thought about it, but I just don't trust Joe Flacco at quarterback.
Right.
Right? Like, do I think the Browns are going to beat them by 20? No. Do I think they'll likely beat them by 7 to 10? Yeah.
Yeah. Let's keep moving. Right on to the next game. Washington coming off of that surprise kind of back and forth win. Going into Detroit to face off against the Lions, where the Lions are favored for the first time in like three something. Is
Two
it
seasons.
2 seasons?
It's
Okay.
a little over two
A
seasons.
little over 2 seasons. -1.5 here at home for the Lions. Who you thinking?
I'm pounding the Lions here. I
Lions,
am
baby.
I am
The
hitting the Lions
pride. The
hard.
pride is here. Let's go.
The Commanders'
Let's
defense
go.
doesn't fill me with warm and fuzzies as far as their rush defense is concerned. Um, like I mentioned, James Robinson was and Travis Etienne were both really productive against them. They just didn't give them the ball enough. Promise you, the Detroit Lions aren't going to have that same problem. They're going to let DeAndre Swift do what he can. And if you're going to struggle to keep him contained, this Lions offense is going to find a way to go off. I don't doubt the Commanders will put up 20, 25, 30 points. I just feel like this is another big Lions score. I could see this being a high scoring game like the Eagles game was last week. And ultimately, it comes down to the fact that I fully trust that Carson Wentz is going to throw a couple the other way. And the Lions make enough big plays on defense to take this game.
I mean, this is a Washington team that looked ugly against
Yeah,
Jacksonville last week. They
yeah.
barely won that game. Um, I think Detroit, uh, obviously giving up 38 on the other side, a bit of a concern. You're gonna need to tighten up the defense a little bit more than that. But this isn't probably going to be the most explosive of offenses that you're going to see from Washington. I, yeah, I like Detroit for sure. To first time favored, and yeah, hopefully taking the win and by more than a point and a half here. I think, yeah, Detroit. Obviously, yeah, you got DeAndre Swift. I think you got receivers that are potentially going to grow in the system, and Jared Goff being, yeah, he's going to be around. You're paying him, and he can still get it out there, at least decently accurately. So
Yeah.
I think that'll work for him. I have a
As a
feeling
fun fact, this game,
yeah,
just as an aside, if DeAndre Swift had 66 yards in this game, he'd be the first Lions quarterback to have 200 plus rushing yards in his first two games since Barry Sanders.
yep, yep.
This team has
Pretty
been
good
anemic
company.
offensively for years.
Yes, yeah, um, yeah. What a fucking accomplishment that would be for
Yeah.
this team. That yeah, exactly. You're talking about single digit wins combined for the last few seasons. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be pretty nice. Um, I have a feeling I know where you might be going with this one as a kind of little fact that you brought up earlier. But Tampa Bay going into New Orleans to face off against the Saints. Tampa Bay is going to actually be favored by 2.5 points on this one. Yeah, New Orleans plus 2.5 being the home team. Both coming off of wins last week. Uh, New Orleans definitely had to work for theirs against an Atlanta team that would expected maybe to play a little bit better against, but Tampa Bay with a more lopsided win, but not the most convincing. Myself, got to go with the history on this one. Tampa Bay has historically been playing really bad against this New Orleans team as of late. Give me New Orleans.
Tom Brady's played 4 games as the quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the New Orleans Saints. They are a 34-23 loss, a 38-3 loss, a 36-27 loss, and a 9-0 loss. He does not play well against the Saints. Whatever it is about New Orleans and the way they scheme, Tom does not play well against them. Now, that was with Sean Payton behind the helm. This is a slightly different New Orleans Saints team. However, still like them defensively. I still think we are underselling Jameis Winston a lot as the quarterback of the New Orleans Saints. I think this is going to be his game where he gets to show a little bit of that to the nation. Tom Brady's on TV. That's going to be a selling point. A lot of people are going to watch this game. Not only do I think the Saints win this, I think they win this thing running away. I think this is going to be an ugly score. I'm thinking like 38-10 kind of ugly. Like this is not going to be a close game.
Wow.
I think the Saints run away with this one.
Wow. All right. That will be. I mean, yeah. I. If this was flipped and this was Tampa Bay at home, I would actually maybe be even leaning Tampa Bay to finally like break the schneid here. But yeah, I like New Orleans at home. I didn't like them that much.
I
Jeez, but
think
we'll
this.
see.
I got nothing out of that
Yeah.
Tampa Bay game that made me think they were any kind of a decent team. On top of losing Chris Godwin, Mike Evans I think is questionable too, so they could be down their top two receivers. Um, Julio didn't look like he gained any more juice going to Tampa Bay last week.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I don't see where Tampa Bay wins this game or even is competitive in it.
A couple more. Let's go on to the next game. A couple more games that were decided really kind of in their last moments. A couple teams, anyways, that decided their games there. Into this one, we got Carolina, the Panthers, going into New York to face off against the Giants. Giants getting -2 here at home against a Panthers team that, yeah, just kind of dropped that one. Had it more or less wrapped up against the Browns, and unfortunately dropped the ball there. Who you like?
I think the Panthers will learn their lesson from week one. I know they want to be careful with Christian McCaffrey, but they need Christian McCaffrey to win games. I think they're going to get him involved in this one. If they can get Christian McCaffrey involved in this, comes down to a game between the two running backs and then what quarterback makes the least mistakes. I'm going to bank on Baker over Daniel Jones. I'll take the Panthers on this one.
And this will be another one we actually differ on here. I like the Giants. Giants are kind of, if you've kind of noticed, I'm a little high on the Giants this year. Actually, both New York teams a little bit higher than I think maybe most people's expectations. I think they had a pretty gritty win in that last one there. I like a team that's willing to just kind of, it's probably a team that's going to go for it on some fourth downs that maybe won't be advised, that sort of thing. They're going to play a lot of risk, I would imagine. But this Carolina team, like that would have been a very very nice uplifting win for this team. The fact that they kind of dropped it right there at the end and kind of got their hearts broken, it just feels like the potential for another letdown game. This could be a really quick spiraling season for the Panthers early on. And I like the Giants. I'm kind of hype on the Giants a little bit. I think if we're able to get that kind of production out of quads again, and we're able to see Daniel Jones just don't turn the ball over, keep it pretty measured. If we get a couple touchdown passes out of you as well, and yeah, if they're able to start getting your Matt Baritas and that sort of thing involved, um, some real potential for this Giants offense to look decent. And their defense is probably going to let you down in some aspects, but this offense might look a little bit better than expectations going into the season. So I like the Giants.
Betting aside, I have seen over-unders on this, depending on your site, go as high as 48. Hammer that fucking under all
No,
day.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I would say so, definitely. Um, let's keep moving. New England going into Pittsburgh. Kind of a surprise a little bit as far as the win-loss is considered for both these teams. Although actually New England wasn't
Really
favored
underdogs.
in that Dolphins game, but they got their breaks beat. Pitt, on the other hand, found a way to somehow win against the Bengals. Plus 2.5 here for Pitt as the home team. Who you got?
I got the Patriots. Um,
Same.
I know all the Steelers won in week one and they beat the Bengals. Happy days. Patriots looked bad against the Dolphins. Listen, there's a big difference in this game, and his name is TJ Watt,
Yep.
and he will not be there for you. Uh, that is as big of a loss as a team can have. That on both of these teams, losing their quarterbacks would not be as big as losing TJ Watt.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's just absolute game changer for the Steelers defense. Um, maybe I feel like it's not even fair to say maybe, probably the best defender in the game right now. Um, Absolutely unreal pass rusher. They're gonna be relying on a lot of other guys to get to Mac Jones, but I think more importantly, they're gonna be relying on their offense to do a little bit more than they did in that last game. I don't think their offense has a little bit more than they did in their last game. Not with Trubinsky at quarterback.
Yeah.
I think the Patriots will win this one. In what will be a low scoring game that will be a little bit ugly, I think the Patriots will win this one.
Yeah, I got the Pats. I think Pitt will be a team that'll get their wins against uh, some of those lesser opponents, I suppose. But I don't think New England's fallen off that much, so I like New England. Um, on next, Indianapolis coming off of a tie goes into Jacksonville, who almost had a win, but ended up losing against Washington there. Jacksonville plus 3.5 at home. Simple enough. I like the Colts. I don't think this could. They can't keep fumbling it like this. Bad game against Houston. They somehow came back to tie it. That wasn't looking like a game they would tie. They looked like they're just gonna flat out lose to Houston. Um, Hopefully they can redeem themselves off of the terrible end of last season. A little
What's
revenge
the
game against Jacksonville.
what's the line you have for this?
I have it as actually I had it at I see it's shifted a little bit. Plus 3. Yeah, plus 3.
+3. So here's my problem. In the last 14 games, Jacksonville is 12-1-1 against the spread against the Colts. And I hate it
Yeah.
because the the Colts are so much better than the Jaguars. This should be a no-brainer. The
Right.
Colts should win this by at least 2 scores.
Right.
But they can't play Jacksonville. Right? At least with the Patriots, I can argue that the Saints are usually a good team when they lose to them. Or the Buccaneers. They can't. You know what? I'm going to go with the Colts. I'm going to go against my betting instinct on this one. Go
Oh
with my
boy.
gut.
Oh.
I, I, I just think, what do they do to stop Jonathan Taylor? What stops Jonathan Taylor from having like 800 yards in this game?
Yeah.
I don't know. I the Colts should win this.
Should. Absolutely. Should win it. I'm worried a little bit because of
I
just
hate it.
how they
I
play,
hate
but
it.
yeah.
They can't beat Jacksonville. You're going back to Clown Town.
Yeah. Keep going into the next game. This one I had the toughest time choosing, actually. Miami going into Baltimore to play the Ravens. Both teams coming in 1-0. Ravens getting -3.5 here at home. I went back and forth. I like the makeup in general of this Miami team. I think they got obviously when you bring in Tyreek, you have I think some backs they could lean on a little bit more. Not a incredibly impressive first week there for him, but enough. I think this Baltimore team is just a little one-dimensional. They should have honestly, even though soundly kind of beat the Jets last week, I think there was more to be done as well for this team. I like Miami. I like Miami on the road here, actually, with that spread.
The Ravens usually struggle with aggressive defenses, and Miami's going to be blitzing out the wazoo on you. They love to blitz. They love to get to the quarterback. I got the Dolphins here too. I think this matchup is just not a great one for the Ravens. I don't know. I feel like these two teams are very similar projection wise in my head. Like as far as like by the end of the season, I think the records will be similar. I just think this is a matchup that the Ravens don't love.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be. I think this is gonna be a tough matchup for them. I think the offensive side of the ball for the Ravens, it might be real tough against this Miami team. I do agree with that. On to one of the we actually are now into the section where we see some massive spreads this week. Makes it very interesting as far as the picking is concerned. Craig's Atlanta Falcons going into LA to play the Rams coming off their stinker of a game. Rams getting -10 at home here. Both teams 0-1 coming in. Who you got?
They hear some voices in the background. They're going Homer pick, Homer pick.
Is there?
The spread's way too much.
Yeah.
Um, Spread's way too much for me on this one. Rams will win, but the Falcons last year was the same thing. They have this unusual knack for keeping games they should get blown out in just close enough to make you believe they have a chance.
Yeah.
Um, this again screams 30-24, right? Something like that where it's like it wasn't really in question that the Rams were going to win, but the Falcons managed to keep themselves close enough all game that you kind of believe they had a shot.
Yeah.
Kind of game it screams to me. Also, like I said, I kind of like what they did with the offense. I think, for the lack of weapons you have, Mariota's got good legs and they're using them.
Yeah.
And Josh Allen ran well against the Rams defense in week 1. I could see Mariota running pretty well against them too.
Yeah, I think the Rams, like, they looked pretty ugly in a lot of parts of that last game. Atlanta could easily have been a 1-0 team, obviously, based on how that last game was going for them. They had a lead that just slipped away there for them. And yeah, -10, way too massive. I take Atlanta as well on that one. Into another massive spread game, and you can hear the homer pick chant still going on. Seattle going in to San Francisco, Santa Rosa, and playing the Niners. Seattle coming off that surprising win, as we were just bringing up. San Francisco just trying to get out of the storm that was a brewing in Chicago there, and unfortunately losing that game against the Bears. Not -9.5 for the Niners here at home, and you best believe I'm going to take the Niners to stomp Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. I'm hoping that some things were learned last week, and it will be interesting given the potential weather conditions that will be occurring in this game. I think it will be I think some lessons learned, and if you just get a more disciplined game out of your team, I think the Niners have a real chance to put the screws to Seattle.
Um, yeah. Something that you might not know, so I'll break the news to you. Fresh off of signing punter Mitch Wishnowsky to a 4-year extension, uh, came through about an hour ago. He's good. They're gonna need him. Uh, I hear the weather's gonna be shit again. I feel for Trey Lance. Why you guys constantly be starting in shit weather? Can we just give him a good field and let's see what he's got? The Niners will win. If the weather was holding up, I would say they would win by this spread. However, these games tend to be sloppy, they tend to be ugly, they tend to be a little bit close.
Yeah.
If it's going to be a weather game, I gotta go with the Seahawks just because of the points. The Niners are gonna win. Of course they're gonna win.
Yeah.
But if it's gonna be a sloppy game, it's gonna be like I don't know, like a 16-13 kind of game, a 16-10 kind of game even. We're still within that
Yeah.
9-point threshold, right?
Yeah. On the next, Cincinnati coming off of that unfortunate game against Pittsburgh, going into Dallas against Cooper Rush and the Cowboys. Cowboys getting +7 at home.
Need to give them way more points than that.
I mean, yeah, we need a bounce back game for the Bengals. I don't think they could play as poorly they did on the offensive line, Burrow's throws, that sort of thing. And Dallas is going to be having a tough time with their quarterback right now. Zeke didn't really look like he popped anyways in their running game either. So Yeah, give me Cincy.
The other underrated thing about this game, after getting bulldozed by Leonard Fournette, is that Dallas defense now has to try to contain Joe Mixon.
Yeah.
No. Cincy by a lot. By a very large number.
Yeah. Um,
As in, you could have put a 1 in front of that 7 in the Cincinnati column, and I still probably would have picked Cincinnati.
yeah. Uh, keep going. Houston going into Denver. Denver getting -10 at home. Denver looked pretty sloppy to me last game. Obviously, they lose one that really everybody would have thought they should easily take against the Seahawks. I like Houston as just kind of a team to keep games close. I think they'll be a little bit more measured in their attack. Coming away with the tie, a game they honestly really should have won. I do like Houston to keep this within 10. I still think probably the Broncos win this. I think they keep it a little closer than 10, though.
I don't. I got the Broncos on this one. I just can't imagine they have a game like they did last week where their offense actually clicks pretty well. You move the ball well, you get all the yards, and you can't find a way to put up points again. Um, I don't think this one's going to be as ugly as the um, Dallas Cincinnati game we just talked about, but 10 points is still enough for me to think that the Broncos probably win this something like 30-17, right? Something in those lines. I just can't believe that the Broncos offense can have all of the things go against them twice.
Yeah. Moving on. Arizona Cardinals coming off of their terrible game, going into Vegas to play the Raiders. Raiders getting -5.5 home, even though they didn't really have a great first game there. This Cardinals defense, though, obviously just gave it all away to Patrick Mahomes. We talked about it earlier. I think Carr has a bit of a bounce back. I actually like the Raiders at this -5.5.
100% agree with you. There is no better remedy for what happened to the Raiders offense in week 1 than a game against the Cardinals defense right now.
True.
Also, Chandler Jones playing his former team, he's going to be up for this one. He's going to get to Kyler a couple times, I imagine.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. I don't see the Cardinals' path to victory here. Um, it's yeah, it's one of those things where the Raiders are going to win probably by a decent chunk. I don't know. I don't have anything close to faith in this Cardinals team right now.
Yeah. Um, very interesting game historically, but based on the week 1 performances, might be pretty interesting here. Chicago going into Green Bay to face the Packers. Chicago getting that win in the sloppy field. Green Bay having an absolute flop against Minnesota on the road. Green Bay still, though, getting -10 at home. Rodgers historically has owned the Bears, as I like to say. -10 is a huge spread. Don't have much faith in the Chicago team, though. I still think actually the Packers take this, even though that spread is huge.
Plus, that spread is huge. I got the Bears.
Bears, understandable.
The Bears. I think Green Bay wins this outright, but honestly, I don't trust that Packers offense right now to put up enough points where I think they could win it by 10 plus.
Yeah,
Right? Like they'd have to they'd have to run the ball a lot more. They'd have to find a receiver on that core who can come up with something consistent as far as being a true Devonte Adams number replacement. Because I don't think you can do it by committee. You don't have the committee to do it. Somebody needs to step up and be a Devonte Adams replacement, and I don't think it's there. I like Alan Lazard. Him being back will help, but I don't think he's replacing Devonte Adams' production.
yeah.
Packers win, but they win 17-10. It's going to be an ugly one.
Could be. I think I don't think this will be a high scoring game by any means, but I think Green Bay has a much more offense, and that Chicago offense. I don't have high hopes. Tennessee going into Buffalo. Buffalo getting -10 at home. I I debated on this one, and Buffalo's really a nice hot team, and I could easily see them winning this by double digits. I gotta think Derrick Henry has a little bit more to say about it. I think there's maybe just enough still as far as this Tennessee squad as a whole. I think Tennessee keeps this game closer than 10 points, so I like them on the pick.
Do you remember my Titans prediction for the season? That if they lost against the Giants, they would go 0 into the bye week and make the change at quarterback to Malik Willis.
Right.
Not only does that happen here, it gets fast tracked here. I am going to throw out a crazy prediction. Not only will the Bills win this by more than 10, Tannehill will get picked off at least 4. Yeah, at least 4 interceptions from Ryan Tannehill. Bills win at least 10, maybe up to 20.
Jeez. Yeah.
This is going to get fast tracked quick. I
Okay.
don't think Derrick Henry will have a bad game per se, but I like a lot of what I saw to this Bills defense. And I think they're going to feast on some handballs thrown up by Ryan Tannehill that the Giants really couldn't. Right? The Giants didn't have the players to capitalize on Tannehill's mistakes. The Bills do. And I think this one gets away from them quick.
All right. And that'll actually be the early Monday game. There's actually 2 Monday games.
Double header on
This night.
Monday.
And Minnesota going to Philly. This is actually probably the most probably intense game, interesting game, I think. Hopefully this lines up and plays as such. Minnesota, yeah, going into Philly. Philly getting -2 here at home. Minnesota obviously looked very impressive in their win against Green Bay. Philly, they still win against Detroit. They still gave up 35 to Detroit, though. For that reason, I like Minnesota here.
This was the toughest one of the week for me. This was the one that you could have given me either team, and I'd have been like, yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
I am going to go with the Vikings because I really like a lot of the pieces the Vikings have. If the Eagles win this, it will not surprise me at all. It's going to be a tight one, as the spread suggests. Right, we got a 2-point spread here. The spread suggests it could go either way.
Yep.
I'll go with the Vikings just because, like I said, I like a lot of what their offense has.
Nice. And that'll do it right there. That is the spread for a week. We actually differ on 6 games this week, so this will be a very interesting record by the end of it. And that's the full slate there. I know we got some interesting things coming up this weekend. Anything you want to hit on as we wrap up here?
Yeah, we have maybe the least talked about trilogy fight in the history of boxing between 2 all-time great boxers, but Canelo Alvarez and GGG, Saturday night, their third fight. Canelo has won both fights. Somewhat controversially in the second one, especially. A lot of people thought Golovkin got him in that one. I like Canelo to win the third one as well. I think he's got a little bit more juice in there. But I do want to quickly throw out on the undercard of this, the WBA International Middleweight Championship fight, which is a nothing burger of a title. But Austin Williams, a young American boxer, I think he's 12-0 now, a former Olympian, dude's legit. Facing his toughest test in Kieran Conway. That should be a really good fight on that undercard, as maybe something to look out for outside of Canelo and GGG. But I think it's a good card. I think there's a lot of fun to be had on it.
Yeah, and yeah, definitely the some of the boxing promotion, man. You just never. Yeah, you just don't know when things are going on. Obviously, the multitude of titles and that sort of thing has just kind of diluted the product. But yeah, that should be a fun one to watch. And yeah, always good to. Yeah, sometimes, and I think a decent amount of the time, those undercard fights, like you're gonna see some good action there. So some stuff to look forward to in the boxing world. Um, Excellent.
It
Um,
was
and that will do it for us here at the Sports Cliches podcast. Thank you all for joining us this evening. If you want to check out the episode, make sure to check out our VOD or the upload on YouTube. You search Sports Cliches on there, you'll find us. Otherwise, you catch us here Friday evenings on the twitch.tv/TapaTOJ channel. That's TAPATIOJ. Uh, that's going to wrap it up. Anything more for the evening, Craig?
I'm good here.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. Have a great evening, and we will see you next time.